You're listening to Maximum Medicine Radio with host Doc Martin. Stay tuned in or call in. You won't want to miss what's happening next. How do you step into your maximum potential? How do you connect your spiritual drive with your physical path? Stick around as Doc Martin takes listeners on a journey through the seen and unseen, the accepted and the unbelievable. Get ready to meet the maximum you the world needs on Maximum Medicine Radio with Doc Martin now. Hi, everybody. I'm Doc Martin. You're here on Maximum Medicine. I'm with Dr. Pat, and we have two participants today that we'll get to, Pam Bright and Christine Farr. And tonight's kind of different. It's a little bit of a teaser. I wrote a book called Maximize Your Healing Power, Shamanic Techniques to Overcome Health Challenges. And that's coming out in the spring. But I wanted to introduce what I call the maximum medicine approach. And it's the way I sort of look at things as a physician, using my shamanic background and my energy medicine background. And I think that's different and something new for the world. It's not totally new if you're sort of in the alternative media streams. But Pat and I were talking the other day. Doctors need to stop being doctors. What does that mean? What do you mean stop being a doctor? Get out of that stodgy, limited, follow the science. I love science. I have a PhD in physiology. But when you follow that so strictly, you have left out intuition, spirituality, and most of all, the individual's power over their own energy field, which translate to their physical field. And we need to bring that back. And that's what I'm all about, is bridging the mystical and the scientific. So to that end, I was struggling with being a physician, with recognizing how limited it was, how I didn't address some of the very real things. When people would show up to the office and they'd talk about something that was on the woo-woo side. But if I stopped and I explored it with them, the power of talking to that and talking about that was transformative. So I started putting all these pieces together, and that's what I want to share tonight. And I want to show you about the maximum medicine approach, so give you some of the diagrams. And then I want to listen to each of our lovely guest participants. Thank you guys so much. They're kind of being guinea pigs because I've never done this before, but I think it'll be wonderful. So Pat, we've talked often about the maximum medicine approach, and we really need it these days, don't we?
Yeah, I think the idea came and was born out of, first of all, you showing up, and thank you for doing this show, Sharon. And one of the things I love about Doc Martin, and that's where we call her Doc Martin, is that as with the other two participants, there is a level of openness that I get to experience working with folks, right? Sharon, you do too. But it's that level of openness that allows for extraordinary creativity. And it allows for not just bridging metaphysics and science, but bridging the essence of humanity. Because when I heard you talk about doctors have to stop being doctors, believe me, that's what I went through in my PhD. I was almost blacklisted from my school because they thought I was holding crystals. Okay. And I had to make a decision about clinical psychology because I wasn't allowed to say the word spirituality. And so we're making decisions that are doing what, Sharon? See, you know what they're doing? They're tapping into what people really want. They're tapping into the compassion that they want us to bring back. Those old, really old television shows. What is that one? Dr.
Marcus.
Marcus. Okay, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That shows our age.
Yeah.
not talk
Yeah.
about that.
And the inverse of that, through the eyes of the good doctor, shows how this good doctor is being schooled on how to be more compassionate. I mean, it's right there. It's like in top shows. But we have to bring it to the place that you're talking about. I don't know about you, Sharon, but when I go back and I look at history and time, and I look at Einstein, and I've read a lot of Einstein stuff, a lot of the letters, and a lot just cool stuff. He never said science without spirituality that I can recall. But people want to know that you know they are human beings. Isn't that the essence of this today for you?
It really is, because it engages the entire human. And we all know we're in real troubled times right now. And if we don't engage the part of us that is tapped into the transpersonal, that can really pull out something bigger to influence our collective, that we're at that critical time point. So
Yeah.
that's what maximum medicine approach is trying to do, is give you if you're the patient or the person with the challenge, give you some tools to really take ownership and make shifts.
Yeah.
So let me go ahead and just give you guys the bare bones. There's a whole lot more in my book, and I won't have time to explain it all. But let me just show you, first of all, Lydia, if you'll show the grand finale image.
The big picture.
The big picture. So you'll see in the middle of this, I don't know, can you guys see, when is Lydia able to put it up where you can see it? But there is a Chicana, which is the Andean Southern Cross, and it is sort of a stair-step symbol. And that's at the center of this diagram. And that to me represents people change. They go up a little and then they plateau. They go up a little more and they plateau. And that's the same with a health challenge. Surrounding that image are concentric circles, and I call them the wheels. And this is sort of a take on the medicine wheel that is the indigenous that we all know, Celtic, Native American. And I have 5 wheels that I work with. This image that you're seeing also has examples of organ systems, so cardiology, respiratory, dermatology, and where I would put it on there with the 5 wheels playing into it. And that's just my take, and I explain that more in the book. Lydia, if you will go ahead and put up the wheel of directions. So this is a very classic way of looking at a medicine wheel, is using the compass, the 4 cardinal directions, with south, west, north, and east. And depending on the culture, South American, Native American, is it Hopi, is it Lakota? You can have different animal totems for these. You can have different traits. And what I focused on is, this is a wheel of transformation. So in the South, you kind of get you recognize you have an issue. As you move around, you go to the West, you kind of get the courage to face it. You go to the North, you get your helpers, usually ancestors. And you go to the East and you have an aha moment, and you go back around. And everything in healing to me is a spiral. You go around, you get better, then you're back to a new awareness, you go around again. So that's sort of, every person is a little bit different where they land on that circle when they are faced with an issue. Lydia, will you put up the second, which is the wheel of the elements? The elements are taken in part from Chinese medicine, although I don't purport to understand that at all. But the elements are critical energies, and I don't include ether. I do fire, air, water, and earth. And those elements are sort of energetically, when I look at it energetically, whether you are fluid, like water, whether you are somewhat overinflamed, as in fire, whether you have not really come down to earth in terms of grasping where you are with your health issue, that's an air issue. So when I look at a person, I can kind of see, and I talk about this in my book with some examples. I kind of did composite patient experiences and made them into one person. But you can be kind of whiffy about the fact you were just diagnosed with cancer. And this is a time you don't want to be whiffy. You don't want to be air. You want to come down to earth because you need to deal with getting yourself to chemo or radiation or the surgeon. So you can be either too much or too little. Too much inflammation, you're too fiery. Too much water, well, if you have heart failure, you have too much fluid on board. Very simplistic. I'm not even beginning to say this is sophisticated and that I invented this, because I didn't. But it's a way of sort of adding to another level of a composite view of the person. The third wheel is the wheel of perspectives. And I learned this from my shamanic training with the Four Winds Society. Are you looking at this with literal eyes? I'm walking, the street is rough, I hit an icy patch. Are you looking at this with emotional eyes? Oh my gosh, I can't believe I have to walk outside. My feet are going to be cold. I'm going to slip on the ice. I'm so worried. Great, you have an emotion, you're in the emotional part. Well, you don't always want to be in either the literal or the emotional part. And the next I call the spiritual part, and that is, can you see this health journey as something bigger? Is this a lesson? Are you having to sort of sort out a personality trait of yours that, you always have back pain? Well, do you always feel burdened by somebody? Do you feel like you have too much to carry? That's sort of looking at your spiritual or kind of a philosophical meaning. And then the energetic. Well, that's where you say, okay, I need a higher power, whether that's me, that's my helpers, that's God, whatever is for you. That's when you get to the energetic part. Then these two wheels are the wheels that I actually invented. And one is to look at this process as, what action are you taking? Where are you on the action wheel? Are you aware, just aware of the problem? I call this wheel the 4 A's. Have you allowed any help? Have you taken any action? And if you've taken action, then you have to affirm. In other words, you've got to practice this in daily life. You've got to set that in as a real habit, as a real shift. And then tasks, which is sort of not too different from actions, but it's perhaps a little more process oriented. Do you have the intuition that you need? Have you amplified by getting help from others? And then have you done a ritual? And so I teach shamanic rituals in my book. And the key rituals that I'll just tell you up front, and we're not going to spend time on these, is you better have some gratitude. Because if you don't respect and give thanks to those higher beings, those higher energies, they don't stick around as your helpers. The way you keep them joined up to you is that energy of gratitude and respect. And that's how you seal it in. So anyway, Pat, do you have anything to add? Because if not, we'll just take a break and then move to our callers.
Yeah, I think the one thing I want to take a break, and I would love for Lydia to put this back up again, because I'm not sure it got up there at the beginning.
The grand finale.
But it's the beginning and the end. That's what I look at it as. It is a beginning and an end wheel. And the reason I love to call it a beginning and an end, because it is fully integrated. It takes everything you just shared and it puts it together in a way that has not been put together before. And what I mean by that is that we have had these individual pieces that you just showed, Sharon, in different places. The two amazing women that are here with us, they have heard of these things. They have seen these things. But have you seen them all together, working together, spiraling and changing, and then pinpointing to an organ in your body? No, you have not. And if you have seen it, great. But it doesn't really exist because pieces of it are so important. But we're living in a different world now. You know, we're living in the world where the unseen has got to be the seen, where the unspoken has got to be the spoken, where the undecided has got to be, more importantly, informed to decide, and where the invisible now has to become visible, because patience, no offense, Sharon, but patience, people, patience, right? They feel invisible. And I'm going to end with this, and let's go to break. And Lydia, I will check in with you during the break. Here's what a friend said to me the other day. Said, are you doing that show with Doc? I said, yes, we're doing a show. She said, well, okay, tell the doctor this. I said, okay, what do you want to tell the doctor? She said, here's what's going on. If my veterinarian ever talked to my dog disrespectfully, or if my she went on, I got to keep it short. My veterinarian or whoever was handling my dog, and I saw them either pulling my dog, or I saw my dog crying, or I saw my dog uncomfortable, can you imagine the wrath? Let's take a short break. What her point was, we don't see vets do that. Most vets don't do that. They handle with care. I say most. I don't know everybody. And her point to you is, why, if they can do that, what has conventional medicine lost sight of? Lydia, let's take a break. We'll be right back.
Hi, everybody. I'm Doc Martin. You're on Maximum Medicine. I'm here with Dr. Pat. I'm here with Pam Bright and Christine Farr. And we're going to just give a quick assessment of each of my lovely participants using my Maximum Medicine approach. So we're going to start with Pam. And Pam, if I know that you know what this is all about, so you know that what you're saying is now going to be public. So thank you for being willing to do that. So let's just pretend I've never seen your face before, and let's just say, hi, I'm Doc Martin, and what health issue, what challenge can I help you with today?
Well, let's see. I decided that I was going to get some help around my balance with you. I have had balance issues since 2001 when I had my stroke. And at that time, I had a 10-day coma as well. Came out of that actually quite okay, although my balance was off. And through the years, especially now it's October, we're going to be going into the rainy season and the snowy season and the ice. Every year, I start getting really emotionally charged with fear of falling. And the fear of falling has remained pretty much consistent since 2001, on and off through the years. But what happens is that I have falls that just come out of the blue, and I don't know that they're going to happen. And so, since that's happened again, and this is 20 years later, I decided, you know what? I'm not willing to be in this fear any longer. So I started using a walker. And I have had small times of not needing anything. Lately, in the last, I'd say, couple months, I just said, you know what, I cannot live in this fear of not knowing whether I'm going to be upright or fall down. So that's kind of where I'm at, and I'd really like to get to a place where I'm confident. I know my brain is functioning well, and that I don't keep going through this same cycle year after year after year.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to try to break this down in a disciplined fashion because I have a whole lot of intuitive hits coming at me. But right now, if we look at the wheel of perspectives, even though Pam has told you a very literal issue that when she walks, she's not stable, where she really is on this wheel is in the emotional perspective. And that fear has carried over for 20 years. That's a long time to have that grab you. So I want to cut over briefly. I want to come back to the fear and the emotional. I want to cut over briefly to the other wheels. When I think of the elements, even though you would think that falling is very fluid and perhaps would be a water element, I see this as a rigid element. So in terms of not being flexible enough to stop yourself from falling. So I just want to teach you, Pam, a quick little process for you to balance the elements. And then I want to come back to the fear. Elements are energies. And what I teach in my book and what you can use here and use in meditative, I don't know what kind of meditative or quiet processes you do, but sit down in your beautiful space, whatever space you have that is your personal spiritual space. Maybe that's outdoors under a tree. And sit down and go into your deepest center and have a dialogue with each of the elements. Imagine them as a person coming forward, sitting down in front of you, and then you say, why are you out of balance? And they answer you back. And it may not be something you even expect. The answer might even come in, well, you haven't let me. And take the question a little deeper. What do I do now? And how do I, or you're not making sense to me. I can't understand you. You've got to tell me more. You have the right to dialogue, but you also have to listen to the answers. But if you have a dialogue with each of these elements and then ask them to be more in sync with you, ask them to add their benefit to you and downplay the excess, you can actually work on getting that in harmony. And even though you have earth and using your walker helps bring that earth, you're a little bit stiff. And I think the fear has made you, and I say stiff, not necessarily in terms of your body, but there's an energy of kind of locked. And that fear can do that to you. So how do we address the fear? Because that's really what's going on here. This is where I would have you do the shamanic process of really, really calling in your helpers. So who do you normally turn to? What energies? Angel realm, God, ascended masters, who do you turn to?
Yes.
Yes, all of the above.
I'm just like, come on in. I work a lot with my own brain, and I also work with clients with brain.
Okay,
So I do sound healing and energy work with the brain, and I'm aware that that's where it starts.
okay.
That's as far as I've gotten. I haven't yet. I like that process of talking to the different elements. I've not done that before, so that feels really good.
So one thing that just struck me is you have those wonderful connections and willingness to be open, but let's make sure that what goes on in your head translates, i.e. flows energetically into your body.
Yes.
Because you can be very cerebral if I don't mean you are cerebral, but the tendency can be for you to fall into that too much thinking and connecting without those energies coming down through. So I would like you to pick in meditative state one helper. If you get too many, it's like you get everybody talking at the same time and you never get anything done. This is not a committee. This is a dedicated person energy. I want you to pick one.
Okay.
When I look at you, I get a very strong vibe of nature diva, fairies, and those kind of magical elements. And you may have connected to ascended masters, to the violet ray, to things like that. But I really want you to think about the natural elements of magic, because this is energies that create where 1 + 1 is equal to 3, where we can get way miracles. This is the land of miracles. But have one higher energy being. And when you talk and communicate of what to do next, ask that energy and really visualize it going through your body, because you got to get it from your head all the way out. And as you're doing that, you're going to say, how do I release this fear? And what good has fear been? Fear has been good because it's made you cautious, so you didn't fall. So you can even sit fear down in front of you and say, thank you. Thank you for what you gave me. You gave me caution. You gave me worry enough to pay attention to my health. You gave me worry enough to communicate with my spirits. But right now you've got me stuck in fear. I need you to go now. I'm feeling it. I'm getting goosebumps. So I'm feeling it energetically that this is a really good piece for you.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense.
But I can't shake the image that I have floating around right here of fairies and the world of magic. So if that's not a realm you normally connect with, go into nature and really open to see what are the nature beings that come forward. And maybe for you, they're water nymphs. I don't know, but I just kept seeing fairies.
Yeah. Well, it's Gaia. I connect with Gaia.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and so that's why, because it's allowing all of Gaia's energies, all of the beings of the land to talk and be with me.
Good. I love that. In this particular case, I'm going to ask you, when you're doing this dedicated, focused work, I'm going to ask you to get one helper at a time, so you can really bring that energy into you. And you can change and then do another time, but don't have them all there at the same time. I think
Okay.
it dilutes their power.
Okay.
Do you have any questions?
So, can you give me a little bit more of a directed avenue for bringing the energy from the brain to make sure that the pathway is clear to the rest of the body?
Okay. So there are two ways to do that I would practice myself. One is an actual intentional visualization,
Okay.
walking it through in your mind. Sometimes I find that hard because it's hard to be self-disciplined. So my suggestion might be that you write a visualization, record it, and then listen.
Okay.
Because you're going to actually say, you're going to create, visualize flow, talk to your helper, you get the energy, you ask your helper to give it to you, you bring it in and track it down. And if you write a visualization, track it all the way, take it step by step, and then listen to it and
Okay.
feel it. Bring it out to your feet. And when you do that, your stance and solidness on the earth will increase.
Great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you're very welcome. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, I get to talk to Christine. Thank you, Pam. Hi, everybody. I'm Doc Martin. We're back, Maximum Medicine. I'm here with Dr. Pat, our two participants. We talked to Pam Bright already, and now I want to hear from Christine. So, Christine, talk to me. Tell me what I can help you with.
Well, Dr. Sharon, I am one of 10. I'm one of those 1 in 10, born with endometriosis.
Okay.
Not the first in my family. I consider myself to be third, if not fourth generation, just through my own research. I'm actually from South Africa. So I was born and raised in South Africa, and traveled around the world. Went to Taiwan to teach English, thought I'd be there for a year, ended up being 12. I'm now in the United States, and what we have discovered is it took 38 years to get a diagnosis. And this is not an unusual thing. My pain presented early. I was one of those people who started their menstrual cycle really, really young, 10 years old. And usually when you look at endometriosis, they talk about the age of 15 to 39. I have had 5 surgeries in 5 years, 3 expert excision with a Nook doctor. Nancy's Nook endometriosis education has saved lives. She's an amazing person. But we've tried our best. I've had what they have to do eventually when I have adenomyosis as well, which is when the uterus is involved and the endometriosis lesions are in the muscle. So the only treatment for that is hysterectomy. So I've lost 6 organs as well. Unfortunately, this resolved nothing. I still have endometriosis, so I'm one of those quote unquote impossible patients with endometriosis post-hysterectomy. And I've now also started to have psychogenic seizures from all the stress.
So what I'm hearing is, despite all of this cutting you apart, taking things out, you're left with pain.
Left with pain, a lot of
And
weakness
stress.
and PTSD and ongoing medical needs.
Okay.
And I'm one of the lucky ones, Dr. Martin. I'm
Mhm.
honestly one of the lucky ones.
So let's just take a minute and let me gather my intuition here. So the first thing that came to me is iron.
Yes.
And so I want, one of the things I'm going to ask you to do, and I've got more hits, but before I lose my train of thought, I want you to use dialogue to establish a more balanced relationship with iron. I want you to make friends with iron.
Okay.
Because I see that as excess, and I see that as kind of an aggressive relationship. And I see that as like a dog that's on a chain and it's going to snarl and bark at you all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to make friends, maybe take the chain off.
Yeah.
Maybe say to iron, and this is just coming to me now, say to iron, I'm going to take the chain off and let you do what you want to do, because maybe iron has been restricted and it's not flowing, and therefore it's glommed up in pieces. So that's kind of the hit I'm getting right here, right now.
Makes sense.
Then I want to talk about another technique that I want you to use. And again, if you have a way to record something to help you deepen, like a self-hypnosis.
Mm-hmm.
So let me give you an example. Self-hypnosis is to first statements to get you to relax. So even if you bring you feel your forehead relax, you feel your eyes relax, you feel, so you're writing a protocol to just take it all through your body. And then you ask to go deeper and deeper. And I like to walk down steps. So walking down steps to allow yourself to deepen. And again, you can record this. I have a little Sony voice activated dictaphone thing and then you can play it back. You can even upload it. I want you to then go into and this is sort of like finding a helper. This is in the realm of asking for, allowing help and amplifying your wish. So on the wheel of inner actions, this is allow. And on the wheel of inner tasks, this is in amplification.
Okay.
The person that you're talking to is your higher self, your soul. But when you go, I want you to take yourself into the control room of your body. And you can choose what dials there are in this control room. You can decide ahead of time, or you can decide as it comes to you.
Mhm.
And I want you to take those dials and you take one of them at a time, the dial of fear, and you dial it back.
Mm.
You bring the gauge back. And this may not happen instantly. You might have to do this several times. Or you have the gauge of pain.
Mm.
Dial it back. When you do this connection with your higher self, you are activating the original template of life force, and you are activating the power of your energy field to your body.
Mhm.
So in the element world, I said iron, which is really an earth element,
Right.
but you can even have a dial for iron to put it in balance. But I think a dialogue, I really, really strongly got the hit that you should make friends with iron. And then you can even ask in your meditative space when you're there with iron, you can even ask, what do I need to eat that helps you be more balanced?
Mhm.
And you might find out, I mean, I don't know that this is so, but you might find out you need to eat more iron. I don't know the answer. You'll have to see what it's suit. But I just see that as glommed up. It's not free flowing. It's, even though it has, your endometriosis has spread all through your different organs.
Mhm.
I see this as stuck. So we need to unstick.
Yeah.
And the meditative ways to do that are to make friends with iron. And then in terms of your pain, I really had a strong hit that you will do well. You've worked so hard with so many specialists. You've really put your attention to this for years and years. You can run the control room. I know that.
Yes.
And you can turn that dial back. You are the conductor. You are the dispatch coordinator. You are the big cheese in the control room. So dial that baby back.
That's it. That's kind of what I've felt that has worked in the past, is whenever I'm trying to control too much
Mhm.
or not taking enough control over my life, the pain tends to flare. And I love what you said about iron. This is with the liver. Chinese medicine does believe that the liver has a governing effect on our female organs. And so that just makes complete sense to me.
How about that? And you should know, a little aside, I grew up in Taiwan. I lived in Taipei and Taichung for 12 years when I was a kid. So it's nice synchronicity.
It is. It's
You
one of
ha-
my favorite places to be. Mhm.
Do you have any other questions?
No, just thank you so much for this clarity and for your advice. And I shall definitely be purchasing your book. I can't wait for it to come out. Thank you so much
Oh,
for doing that for
thank
us.
you. It comes out in May. And again, maximize your healing power, shamanic techniques to overcome your health challenges. And as soon as you buy it, if you will write a review, that will be wonderful. I love that. And then Pat wanted me to say how somebody listening, any listener, can connect with me. My website is www.drsharonmartin.com, drsharonmartin.com. And then that has my email, and you can, anyway. But ladies, I will be sending you emails, and Lydia, if you'll email me their email addresses, I get more intuitive hits on stones, and I will send you
Yeah.
stone messages because I love stones, and they talk to me, and I'm sure they'll have something to say for each of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we, Sharon, put up the large
The grand
diagram,
finale.
the grand finale?
Okay.
And then let's just put it up on Facebook so people can see it. And Pam and Christine will get that to you. We'll get the JPEG to you so you can see it. One of the things that I wanted to just open up is, Pam, want to just go back to you again. Anything else come up? Anything else either one of you women would love to say? Amazing beings.
So I just want to say thank you for being willing to do the work you're doing. It is so important in the healthcare field for you to be stepping in this way. So I don't know how long you have been doing this mission work, but it's so important for the
Thank
world.
you.
So thank you for that.
I do feel called to do it, so thank you.
You're welcome.
And Christine, how about you?
Again, also thank you. And to anyone who's listening with endometriosis, you're not struggling alone. For those of you who are not getting diagnosed and you're not sure, please do contact Dr. Sharon Martin. She's here to help you. And there are lots of ways to do that. Thank you for giving us the chance to share with everybody. Thank you so much.
Very wonderful.
Mhm.
So this is just a teaser on maximum medicine. And the whole point of the book is, first of all, as humans who then sometimes are patients, you have power, you have control. And when we control our thoughts, which control our energy field, that percolates down, flows in from our energy field into our physical form. And your thoughts really do control your physicality. So you can shift it. And again, I've talked about dialogue. I've talked about recording a sort of little self-hypnosis, a meditation, and you need your helpers. I can't tell you how much we are created to be connected to the earth and the galaxy. And we have, by our technology, gone so tunnel vision. We need to do what the indigenous knew, get back to being in sync, get back to being in right relationship, and pull in those energies. There are so many energies. I talked to Pam briefly about magic. Well, I met dragons in Sedona, and I meant that as a current of energy. It was told to me that this was a dragon, so I continued to call it a dragon. I knew nothing about the magical world. And then when I started studying the magical world, I found out that there really are dragons, but they have become, those energies have become powerful assistants for me in my healing. So we have helpers, but I can't tell you enough that respect and gratitude. And you always, always say thank you, because like I've had my helpers around me tonight. But if you don't acknowledge that relationship and you don't respect it, it'll be gone. And so that's another point, just briefly before we close up. If you go into dialogue and you don't get an answer, or you get, if say Christina's meeting with Iron and Iron's like, yeah, whatever, and doesn't give you anything back, you're allowed to say, what can I do to start this conversation? What can I do to have you talk to me? Maybe they say, well, you came here with a bit of an attitude, go home, come back tomorrow. or they say, well, you didn't do such and such, or I don't trust you. How do I know you're going to listen to me? Sometimes, you go to ask a higher energy or a being for their help, and they say, why? You're not going to listen. I've watched you take, instruction and you don't listen. And then you say, okay, I'm sorry, I promise I'll listen. Or what's the code word? Like when I met a power animal, like I met Hawk, will you help me? And they said, well, okay, but how will I know that you're paying attention? And then, set up a code word. This is not a safe word, not like that. Set up a code word that I know that you hear me and I hear you. So you have that capacity to engage and to get help, because there are so many energies there waiting to help us. So, Pat, anything you want to add before we close up?
No, I want to thank everybody here. I want to thank Lydia for doing what she does so well. I want to thank everybody out there. I sent Pam a little chat message. So I just want to remind Pam that if you see Pam's picture on her banner, she is wearing butterfly-like fairy wings. Hello, Pam.
Yes, I know. Thank you for that reminder.
So you need to send that to Sharon. But Sharon, thank you so much for doing this. And by the way, there'll be more like this. We're very excited for what Sharon has created. And I'm telling you, it is such a gift. I think all of you echoed the same thing that we did earlier. We need to bring back the old to create a new model for healing, don't we?
We
Yep.
really do.
Yep,
Let's do it, ladies. Let's take us into the future.
absolutely.
Thank you,
All right.
everybody.
Thank you for participating. Thank you, Dr. Pat. Thank you, Lydia. Nice talking to you guys.
All right.
Maximum Medicine. Be back next month.
All right.
You've been listening to Maximum Medicine Radio with Doc Martin. Tune in next time while the doc talks health, spirituality, and the impact your beliefs have on every part of who you are, body and soul. Doc Martin unpacks the challenges we face as human beings and teaches callers to open the door between the scientific and the mystical. To learn more about Doc Martin and Maximum Medicine, visit www.sharonmartinmd.com.